Hello, good morning, good afternoon to our New Zealand audience, and welcome to this introduction to Koordinates' new Kart version control UI. I'm here today with my colleague Eli Chadwick, who will be running through a demo of all the new functionality. So this session is going to include an intro to our Kart-powered multi-user editing, the new Kart UI, and a live demonstration on how it all works. Please do be advised that this webinar will be recorded and we will send it all out to you in a week or so. Also, if you have any questions, if you see at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A box and you can jump in there and ask us questions. I will answer whatever I can. Eli will answer what he can. If we can't, we will follow up with you afterwards. So version control, we're all really familiar with it because we're all using it using our Word documents or say Google documents where you can track changes and you can see how different collaborators have all contributed to a document. Developers will know it from managing their code in Git repositories. Version control makes life way easier to collaborate because you can see what other people have done to a document or a code base over time. The changes, the deletes, and all the notes about why they made those changes. So Koordinates have brought this style version control to data by building a wrapper around Git for all the devs in the audience. And today we're going to show you how it works in our UI so that you can use version control to work with your teammates. So first of all, I'm going to give you an overview about how Kart works through these slides, and then Eli's going to show you how it actually works on the platform. Here we go. So Koordinates as a platform is designed for you to share your data. So you may have lines, points, point clouds, polygons, imagery, tables. You can load them all into your Koordinates site, should you have one. And then your users can take it in whatever way suits them. So perhaps they have an app and they want to consume that data via API. If they're a QGIS user or an Esri user, they can choose their favorite format. And there is a desktop app plus the portal sites. This is how distributed version control works. You will have your users using their favorite software. So for example, we're using QGIS, ArcGIS Pro, or FME. Those people will come along and they will clone down a copy of the data they want from the coordinate site and save it as a repo on their local machine. Once it's saved as a repo, they create a working copy in the format that they want to use, and they'll edit the data. Once they're finished editing, they will commit that change by updating it to their local repository, and then they can push it all the way back up to the main copy on their coordinate site. So that's just an overview of the concept. Then here's how it would step through from the start. If you have a site administrator, so the person who is the owner of the data set and managing it, they will take a layer and publish it into their coordinate site. The contributors will then clone the data back down, save it as a repo, and then when they edit it, when they've edited their working copy, push it to the repo, they can then push it up back to the coordinate site. You can have multiple contributors all working on one data set. And then the publish layer is auto updated, incorporating all the edits. So that's the main layer that everybody was using in the first place. And then all the contributors can come back again and pull all the updates down for their working copy. So because slides are only conceptual, we will now jump into showing you what it all looks like. So I'll hand over to Eli at this point so that he can give you a tour.
Cool. Thank you, Anne. Yes, I'm essentially going to go through the steps that Anne just described. We're going to load up some data, and then I'm going to clone it down, and then we're going to pass it over to Anne, and she's going to do some edits to the same data set, push it back up. I'm going to grab her changes, pull them down, and then we're going to inspect this new UI, which is fundamentally the point of this whole webinar. So I'll just get into straight away. I need to get some data onto the site. To do that, this button, a lot of you that are Koordinates users probably don't have access to such a button. This is available to your site admins who can do push data up. They can do configurations, invite users, do all of the admin type functions. So first thing I want to do is go into the manage section. One of the key points with doing multi-editor collaboration is you need to create a group, invite users to that group, and then assign that group to that layer with appropriate permissions. So the first step in this process is to jump into groups and users. I'm going to come into my group section and create a new group. We'll call it Kart, Kart being the underlying technology. You can call it obviously whatever you like. And that creates a new group called Kart. I am the administrator of it, and I can add people to it as I see fit. So in this case, I want to add Anne so that she can also see the data. In order to be able to add her, she needs to have already registered with the site and have an ID, a login. So here I found Anne. There are 3 levels of permission that I can grant to prospective users or users. Access data, pretty much as it says, you can access the data. You can't do a whole lot more. You can view it on the platform. You can access it programmatically. Manage data, you'll need to select this if you want that user to be able to push edits. Or manage group gives that user the permission to configure the users in the group, add new users, change their permissions. So it's perfectly fine to just go with manage data in this case. And we hit add. And now we've got a group with 2 users. You could have as many users as you require in here. Next step, grab some data. So for that, we're back to manage. What I'm going to do is do a simple upload of the power lines layer, nice and small, fast. We want things to happen within a reasonable time frame today. So I'm grabbing the power lines, which I grabbed off LDS earlier. So what we have there is a zipped up geo package with the power lines feature layer inside of it. I'm going to apply it to the new group that I created called Kart. This means that this is where you determine that new users of the group, users within the Kart group are going to be able to access this data layer. So now we hit upload. That's going from my machine up to AWS. We look for any geometry issues, and we don't find any because I just grabbed it off Lynn's anyway. But it will do it. And if it does find any issues, we'll send out an email saying there are problems with this data set. So the data gets put into this holding area. I am going to drill down into the zip file, find a geo package, go into the geo package, and here is the layer that I want to import. So you click the import, there was an update button there. If this was a pre-existing layer, you'd be doing an update, i.e. applying changes to a pre-existing layer. This is a Greenfields brand new layer. I am going to ignore what the metadata has discovered there and call this layer New Zealand Power. Happy enough with the description. So from a minimal viable product, you don't have to set anything further in here. I am actually going to assign this to the infrastructure category, which is set up here under site settings. And I can also verify that the Kart owns the group, is the owning group. And then basically come down here and hit import. So now that import has started, you don't have to, it's not modal, you don't have to hang around. You can go in and check it at any given time, work out how the progress is going. But it's just going to tick away there, so I can leave that. So while that's happening, I'll just pop back over to the data button and just quickly, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but for those that don't, we have a data button, turns the data browser on and off. That's this guy over here on the right. You can drag things around. It's responsive, works on phones and tablets. We also have a map button, turns the map on and off. Down the bottom, we have a map bar. You can fire off as many maps as you require. If you go away and come back later, they'll still be there. So they're persisted between sessions. It just means you don't have to gather together the data that you want to be able to either interrogate or export. That'll just sit there. These guys here are what we call data cards. They are data sets. So behind each of these is a data set. And any of these, we can hit the map button, put them into the map. The reason I've put this in here is I wanted to explain before I go doing this cloning, what is the difference between cloning and exporting? So when you do an export, choose your coordinates reference system. You can choose the format that you want to output in. bunch of different formats are supported, and then you hit your create export. That will essentially do what it says, create an export. I have already done one. So if I hit one of the previous, I get to download a file. That's just going to pull down a zip file containing whatever data you selected in whatever format you selected. So here I've got a geo package on the way, and that will just land in my downloads folder. Big difference between a clone and an export is export, you've pretty much just grabbed a copy of it and it's been severed from the parent. With a clone, when you do the cloning, you are getting a connected copy. So when upstream changes come through, you can pull them down without having to re-download the whole file in its entirety. From a cloning perspective, you can clone by coming to this ellipsis and grabbing the SSH URL, and then in command line, you'd say Kart clone that thing, and that's going to bring you down a clone of the data set, as opposed to what we've done earlier here, which is this export guy. It's ready to go. So that's the big difference between exporting and cloning. And now I'm going to head on over to QGIS, where I'm ready to go. I am going to be doing all of my work in the QGIS plugin, which we developed. It's freely available. You can come on up to the plugins, hit manage and install plugins. And then if you do a search for coordinates, we find I already have them installed, but if you just grab a copy of the coordinates and install it, that will actually install the Kart exe as a dependency. So you can go ahead and do your cloning, pushing, pulling, stuff like that. Once you have them, they're available under this little menu here. So I can say add, I want to look at the repositories and I want to look at the data browser. I have both of those already down here. So what we're looking at here is that's the Kart repository browser. This is where any repos that you clone or create locally, you can add them. So up here, you can either say clone, grab a new copy, you can create a new one, import some data, or you can add an existing repository that you have been working on elsewhere. But today, I'm going into the Coordinates plugin, and I'm going to be looking for, let's have a look and see if that has been published already. It's not. So back to the site, jump into manage, and it has arrived. Great. So now if I open up that layer that's sitting there, I can go off and look at it in the portal. And this will just show me a copy of the data set sitting up there all ready to go. So if I go back into the QGIS and we say, show me the recently added, I find the layer that I'm interested in. We've tried, where possible, to replicate the UI from the website here. So if you've been up on the website and looked at data cards, this is a pretty much the same sort of thing that you're looking at. There are two options. You can either do an add. If I do an add, that's going to add the layer to my map as a service. There are limitations there. It's an XYZ service, pretty much basically think WMTS. So if you want to do deeper analysis, joins, things like that, you're going to want a copy of the data. So we don't want that for today. We want to do a get. So get actually is doing the cloning. I'm going to say clone 2. You need somewhere to put the data set. Let's make a new folder, call it NZ Power. The repo is basically a folder. Data is going to go in there. Hit open. So now I've got it all set up. I could do a spatial filter. Spatial filters are where you say I only want a certain area of the data. It's still connected to the parent, but you don't. It just ignores all surrounding data that you're just not interested in at this point. If I hit OK now, that clone will start. And it's finished. So let's just make the map a bit bigger. So what happened? We have got a folder. I have done a clone. Inside the clone is it will take the name of whatever you've called the folder. So I've got a geo package, NZ Power geo package. If I come back into the QGIS project and we head on over to the Kart repositories, it has been automatically stored in here. So everything that you clone will end up down in here. I can at this point remove that service because I actually have the data now. And this guy here, I can simply drag into my map. So now I've got all the lines in New Zealand. I've got the repository sitting here. But what I am first going to do is pass it back to Anne. And she's going to make a few edits to that layer.
Excellent. Thanks, Eli. I was just cloning the layer that Eli was talking about. So you can see here, I have successfully cloned the New Zealand power lines that Eli has just uploaded, and you can see them, yeah, in my map viewer there, and my layers here. So now that I have them, I'm going to make some edits and then push my changes back to the main copy. So to do that, I will select the whole of the South Island. So we're going to imagine here there's been a big upgrade to the network and we need to completely replace it. So I'm going to delete those. Would I like to delete them? Yes, please. I will save my edits. So we've got just the North Island here. I'm happy with that. So over here, this is my Koordinates plugin, and you can see I'm on Eli's site here. I'm going to jump over to my Kart repositories, and on the working copy, I'm going to commit the changes. So when I hit that, it's asking me for a message. So I'm going to say removed South Island in prep for Eli's upgrade. There we go. Save my commit message there. So that's now locally committed. And I'm then going to push my changes up to the main branch. So that's going to send it back into the coordinates cloud where Eli will be able to see my changes. And then I've got my little confirmation message there. So if I stop sharing, Eli can have a look and see if my edits have come through.
Awesome. Let's get this thing again. All right, so in theory, Anne has removed all of the South Island. How do I get that update? There's a few things in here. I'll just quickly show you the show log. This is the timeline of all the commits that have been pushed around the place. I have no knowledge of what Anne has done. I'm simply sitting here looking at what I cloned. In order to sync my data set with anything that's happened up in the cloud, I'm going to right click here and come down and do a pull. So these two here, push, sends them up to the cloud, pull, pulls them down. So now when I do a pull, we're operating on the main. You could be working on branches and then merge that into main, but just to keep it simple, we're working on the main. The remote is the origin, and I want to say okay. So that's now going back up to the site, seeing if there's any changes up there, and it has found that there are changes and pulled them down correctly. So now I can see that I have just the North Island left, and the South Island has disappeared. If I go back into show log, I can see that Anne's been busy. So I can select that, and there are a bunch of things you can do in here. You can say, show me all of the changes that were introduced by this commit. That essentially is a visual representation of all the things that happened. So these will be all of the lines that Anne removed. I can look at the geometries. I can look at any attributes. If red is a delete, green is an insert. Yeah, that's your history basically. And this is also where you can do things like create a new branch. You can reset back to, there's a whole lot of things. We're not going to go into that today, but if you know Git, you can do most of the Git things in here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to grab the South Island lines, which I have sitting here, and I'm going to do an append. So this is a plugin that I'd use quite a lot. It's just append features to layer. It's free. You can install it. My source layer will be the New Zealand Power, and I want to, no, it will not. It will be my South Island lines, and I want to push them into the New Zealand layer. So essentially I'm taking these lines here and pushing them into our the repo that we're actually working on. So it happens pretty quick. They should be added. If I come back here and we turn off my source data set, I've now restored or updated the South Island. Those are happening in my working copy. In order to get them back up into the cloud, I need to make them a formal member of the repository. In order to do that, I'm going to basically repeat what Anne just did. So I'm going to commit my working copy changes to this data set. I'm going to give it a commit message of upgraded South Island lines and commit them. So that's going to take all of the changes that I've just done, which was a bulk insert, and it's going to add them to the repo. So now when I go in here and look at the log, I should find that I have a new commit. So that's my new thing. That's what I just did then. Next step is we want to get those up to the site. So again, is a right click and a push. I'm happy pushing. So off we go. There is again a bunch of things you can do in there. You could push to a different remote. We're just going to keep it simple. So this is claiming that my repo changes have been pushed back up to the remote. So there we're done with QGIS. I can head back up to the site and we can find, hopefully under group, it's got Kart. Awesome. Right, so that's the layer that I just pushed back up. If we open that up, I can go in now. So this is where the new UI comes in. There's a bunch of changes. There's a few roadmap items that are coming up. I'll explain them shortly, but we've got this new button here called View Repo. That takes you into the repository view. This is a timeline of all the things that have happened. So if I remove that guy from the map and we go, what was this? That was the initial creation of the data set. So there were 329 ads. I can say, show me what that looked like. Cool. So there you're actually adding just the commit. You're not adding the whole data set. Let's remove that, go back to all commits, and I can go through each of these now and see what exactly they all were. So here Anne has removed everything in the South Island. They are all red, so they're all deletes. I can go around and look at all of the different features that have all been stored here. It's just a good method to be able to go through and do a visual audit QA of what has happened in the past. I can also add that to the map and look at the changes that were introduced by this commit. And then finally, if I go back to what I just did, which is upgraded the South Island lines, I can see that I've replaced them all with a new set of data and add that to the map. There's actually there's another kind of cool thing going on in the background here. If I go into manage, I should find that it's publishing. So what's going on is you've got your repository sitting up on the site. You're doing your work on that. That is automatically immediately updated every time you do anything. That is the data source that is backing the layer that we were just looking at up there. And every time we push things, they are being pushed back up to the site. So the changes, if I go back to the site real quick, I probably won't be able to beat it. But if I go back to that layer and we add it to the map, oh, I just finished. So it actually only had the North Island, but it's just republished and added the South Island in. So what actually is going on there is it's automatically republishing back out to the published layer. So it essentially means that you're using Kart to control the editing of the data. In the old days, or even today, if you wanted to do an update, you would have had to have uploaded the entire file. It would have copied all the features over. This is a small data set, but if you were doing like land parcels, something like that, you're talking having to wait while, a large amount of data gets shifted around. The beauty of Kart is it's just pushing those commits. So if you make little tiny changes to a repo that's got millions of features in it, you're only having to shove just those small changes back up to the site, not the entire data set. So it's going to be much more efficient, faster to move things around. Things are being queued. And so you could have multiple people pushing stuff at the same time. The way that you would, so some of the roadmap items that we've got coming up are the Git concepts as well. You would do what Anne and I have done, but you would push the changes around in a branch. The admin will have the ability to come in here and do a visual QA of what was in the branch. And if they find problems, they would not merge it. If they find no problems, they can merge that back into the main branch, and that would trigger a republish. And so it gives you that sort of continuous integration ability to do QAs on data that you're pulling around the place. It'll be quite a cool feature. The other thing that would happen is you'd push your branch up and then you would trigger a pull request. So the admin will receive a notification saying, hey, there's a branch being pulled up, being pushed up, check it, merge it. They can come in, do the check and do the merge. There's full conflict resolution available. There already is conflict resolution available, so you can do it in command line. It would be basically where you'd have to go through all the changes, and where there was a conflict, you'd have to pick a winner. And then obviously the last sort of thing is, say you were pumping this into a Esri system, you would only have to copy this into Yago one time. And meanwhile, as all of this republishing happens, that's being updated in the background. So it's sort of a seamless method for editing your data, multiple people doing it, and then piping it out to various other consuming systems. So yeah, that's what we wanted to show you today. I will stop sharing there and pass back
Cool.
to Anne.
Thanks, Eli. We've got some really good questions today, so can start those. We've got, yeah, the first one is, does this work for large databases with tens of millions of features and tens of gigabytes in file size? And what type of performance could we expect to clone and push and pull changes? So I guess the first part is about size, and we already deal with data sets that are millions of, or several millions. I don't know about tens of millions, but we don't
Yeah, we're
really
doing
know,
one
do we?
data set. We have that data set for an American customer, and it's all the floodplains in the whole of continental US, and there are millions and millions of features in there. When you store these records in a Git-like repository, there is a limitation of 2 gigabytes per feature. That's a pretty big feature, not 2 gigabytes per data set. It's that would be an extremely complicated. That's 2 gigabytes worth of vertices. I don't know that we have anything like that. So yeah, fully performant. In terms of pushing things around, it really depends how big the thing you're pushing around is. It actually pushes and pulls faster than doing uploads and edits. It's just a wrapped up commit. So yeah, it can handle massive data sets, and we haven't found an upper limit for it yet. I doubt we will in New Zealand. We may in other countries that are much larger. Yeah,
Yeah, so we haven't hit a limit yet.
no.
Leading on from that question is from somebody else, and it says, what kind of checks do we have during this push-pull process to ensure data integrity?
There is a each commit has a user ID or has a UID, so unique identifier. That is a check for the integrity of the repository. So in order to do the push, it's going to basically say, is this in sequence? And if it's not, then you won't be able to, but it always will be.
Oh, excellent. We've also got a question, Eli. I noticed you didn't need to set a primary key on the Powerlines dataset to set it up for Kart cloning, versioning functionality. So they don't need primary keys?
No, not for that. If you were to do, say, if you were to upload the entire file, i.e., do your changes in a geo package, then do an upload, then do an import, that will need a primary key, or else it's going to entirely replace the whole entire data set. So yeah, it's that CRUD thing, inserts, updates, and deletes, and that has to revolve around a primary key that has to be persisted between updates. Doesn't matter so much with Kart because it's just an atomic update. The commit will go up.
Oh, cool. One more, we've got, will there ever be a MapInfo plugin, as we currently use MapInfo as a Hapu GIS?
We have looked at building an Arc Pro plugin. We're keen as to build one. We just can't find anyone that knows how to do it. MapInfo, we haven't had a big request for that yet, but
Yeah, if we have customers that come to us and say we want to work with us, and yeah, we have an accelerated development program where we could do it. It's just not on the immediate roadmap at the moment, is it?
no, well, the other thing is you would want to be working in tabs, MapInfo tabs, I would say, which is not currently a supported working copy. supported working copies are geo packages, and then from an RDBMS perspective, we do SQL, MySQL, Postgres.
Oh, cool. We've got another question, but I'm wondering if we should take it offline. It's, can we show a quick demo on reverting the dataset to a previous commit? That would be a case of,
It's basically a matter of in QGIS. I could show that probably real quick. Let's see.
that would be pulling a commit, would it?
Yeah, that's essentially going to be looking at the log, and then I can say right click in here, reset branch to this commit.
Oh, easy.
You can also do it in, so now the South Island will have disappeared. And if I wanted to, I could do a force push, so that would update it like this. You don't really want to do that, but you want to maintain the history and the integrity of the repository. But yeah, that's how you can roll it back easily. And that sort of functionality will be much more available in the thing I was talking about with being able to do GitHub type actions up on our site. So you'll be able to do stuff like this branch has been merged, demerge it.
Oh, awesome. Well, that's all the questions we have today. I'd like to thank everyone so much for joining us. If you're interested in how coordinates could work for your business, please do get in touch and we can discuss your setup and demo how it might best work for you. For product updates and webinar announcement, and we do have a lot of exciting new things coming, please follow us on LinkedIn or our YouTube channel, because we do load up these webinar vids afterwards and we will send them out. Otherwise, I wish you all a fabulous weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you.